Yo, what is up everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And I am here to start a brand new series today. This is called Yesterday's Sports I Care About. I'll come up with a good acronym later. YSICA is currently what it is, so Yesterday's Sports I Care About. So what exactly will be happening on this series? Well, every single day I will get in front of this camera and just discuss a few sports topics from the previous day that I care about. This is going to fluctuate rapidly over time, so I just want to get it in people's heads what we could be discussing. First thing I want to make clear is there will typically be about maybe anywhere from 1 to maybe 3 topics a day. It really just depends on how long each topic is, how much time I have, how far in depth I want to go into a topic, and here's some of the stuff we could discuss. First thing is, I might discuss any sort of broad sports topic that's in the news cycle. If there's like a trade deadline or a massive move that happens or crazy games that occur, I might discuss them on this channel. The second thing is, I may make a video about any of my favorite teams and their performances from the previous night. So, who are my favorite teams? Well, starting with baseball, my favorite team is Chicago Cubs. My favorite football team is Chicago Bears, and my secondary team is the Browns. My favorite hockey team is the Blackhawks, and my secondary teams are the Leafs, Oilers, and Sabres. My favorite basketball team, it's kind of mixed. I have 2 main and 2 secondaries. My 2 main teams are the Bulls and the Thunder, and my 2 secondary teams are the Mavericks and the Bucks. My favorite soccer team is Leicester City in the Premier League. Yes, I will call it soccer here, so if that offends you, for any of the Brits out there, I am transparent up front. I will be calling it soccer. Sorry. I root for the USA in all international sports competitions. I went to Purdue for about 2 years, and I currently am a student at Purdue Northwest, so I may discuss Purdue sports whenever they don't lose against like 15 seeds in the March Madness tournament. That was fun, but yeah, so I might discuss any Purdue sports on this channel as well. So what this means is that any video that I'm making could be a recap of the previous night's action. Any game that I watched, I could be discussing that on this channel. Now, the third thing that I could discuss that isn't like a major sports topic or something involving a game involving my favorite teams is if there's a slow sports day, I might make a specialty video where I discuss one of my teams in depth, seeing as how most of them are in a rebuild right now. Talking about the future will certainly be a lot more enjoyable than talking about the present. Now, I know there's probably a question that you're having. Why? Why are you doing this? Why are you making a video every single day? Why are you talking about teams when most of them are in a time when they are boring as all heck? Well, it's quite simple. Recently, my girlfriend and I broke up, and after a long time together, I've kind of spent the last few weeks trying to process the whole situation, and trying to process a lot of my personal choices that I've made over the last couple of years. And I think this was an important moment for me to rethink my priorities, and I think I got a little bit complacent in life, and this is essentially me trying to take back control of my priorities. I was spending way too much time doing absolutely nothing, and I needed to start putting myself on a stronger schedule. Because of that, I'm going to put myself to work and take action against my own laziness, putting more effort into school, and that is why I'm making this video today, to start a brand new series where I discuss my favorite sports topics. And on that note, my goodness, there was an incredible game that occurred last night in Orlando, Florida. The U.S. men's national team played their final home World Cup qualifier and their second to last World Cup qualifier total, taking down Panama 5-1. 5-1 in a soccer game. Yeah, it was one of the best displays I've seen from this group since they started coming together about 4.5 years ago. First, let's discuss the lineup that the U.S. came out with for this game. First off, Greg came out in a 4-3-3 as he always does, so we had Zach Steffen, that Shaq Moore on the right, which was the late inclusion after Reggie Cannon got COVID and DeAndre Edlin was suspended for this game. Anthony Robinson on the left, Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman at center back, Tyler Adams playing that defensive midfielder role with Yunus Musa and Luca De La Torre as the 2 central midfielders, Pulisic wearing the captain's armband on the left wing, Paul Arriola playing on the right wing, and Jesus Ferreira up top. And let's start right there with that front 3 tonight. They were all incredible. Christian Pulisic, for the first time in quite a couple of games, finally shows up while playing for his country. It's something we really haven't seen in a long time, especially considering the fact that despite the fact he scored a couple goals, his performances really haven't been ideal, especially not for a guy who's as important to the team as he's supposed to be. Weston McKennie, throughout this entire World Cup qualifying, was easily our best player, But he recently got a broken foot, so he missed these World Cup qualifiers, and he's out until the end of the season for Juventus. So despite not having our best ball-winning midfielder, we went into Mexico and got a draw, and then came back home and destroyed Panama. Now let's go through the goals. The U.S. started slow until the 13th minute when Walker Zimmerman was brought down the box by his Nashville SC teammate Anibal Godoy. After VAR, the penalty was given and a top-tier fake-out by Jesus Ferreira, taking the ball initially, dealing with all the shit that occurred there, and then he handed it off to Pulisic, who stepped up and took a clean-ass penalty from the spot to the top left in the 17th minute. 1-0 to the U.S. My favorite part of this play was honestly the emotion that you see from Walker Zimmerman, a guy who went from not even being called into the October camp initially to starting the majority of games in the World Cup qualifying, playing great, especially in that game against Mexico, the 2-0, and being part of the captain rotation. He's almost guaranteed to be on that flight to Qatar in December, and it's absolutely incredible to see an MLS lifer ball out for the national team. Second goal comes in, and it's only 6 minutes later. And when I saw this one, I kind of lost my mind, because after Pulisic commits what looked like a pretty clear dive that the referees obviously did not call, ball ends up at the feet of Jedi Robinson, who crosses it into the box, and Paul Arriola heads it into the back post. And now it's 2-0. Paul Arriola. Let's just discuss what happened about 4 minutes later. And who else but him once again, Paul Arriola, assists to Jesus Ferreira for the easy tap-in right in front of the net. And now it's 3-0, not even 30 minutes in. Can we just take a little bit of a pause here and just take a step back and realize what's been happening right now? The U.S. men's national team has scored 3 goals in World Cup qualifying twice so far. It was that game in Honduras where Ricardo Pepi broke out, and then it was that other game against Honduras after we lost against Canada where we won 3-0. So after all those performances where there were no blowouts that were occurring, in this game, we come home, and in 30 minutes, we've already got 3. What? This is crazy. And of course, we need to discuss the guy himself, Paul Arriola. There's been a lot of criticism at the head of Paul Arriola, and deservedly so in many ways. Not really because he's played bad per se, but more because the skills that he has are not representative of the things that we need. We need more technical players. There's a lot of guys who can do the things that he does while also adding extra elements. That's been a part of a frustration for a lot of fans out there. I've always kind of liked Paul Arriola. I kind of respect just what he is. Just because, as a hockey fan, I kind of respect Paul Arriola probably more than most soccer fans will, because I kind of like those gritty players who are always kind of just running around and make the greasy, gritty play. This is wild. He had a goal and an assist in the span of only 5 minutes. Amazing work from a guy who many people said before the game should not be playing or even showing up to the camp for these games. Then nearing the end of the first half, Miles Robinson is taken down the box on another corner, similar to the play that happened with Walker Zimmerman earlier, and once again, another penalty. Ferreira steps up, hands the ball off to Pulisic, and this time he goes top right. The goalie, who guesses correct, could not reach it, and it's 4-0, and Pulisic celebrates with the worm. And this is probably the most mocked moment from the game last night, because as we all know, Pulisic loves to dance, and he just can't. When he's playing for Chelsea, he was hung to the gritty when he scored against Lille in the Champions League, and it was really funny because he didn't really do it that well. Now here, he does the worm, and it was honestly kind of pathetic. But when he tells the story afterwards, it's really actually heartwarming. It's about a kid named Mason Ogle, who's a high schooler and a big-time U.S. men's national team fan who was recently diagnosed with cancer. Christian met him yesterday, and what happened was Mason asked him that if he scored a goal, could he celebrate with a worm? So Pulisic obliged, and he made himself look like an idiot on international television because this kid asked him to. And that's really cool. Really cool for him to do that. And it's really cool for Mason, this kid Mason, who was able to see that because it was requested to him, even though it was really bad. It was a really bad worm. It's just, Christian's not a very good dancer, but damn, can he take penalties, because he has hit, I believe, 6 for 6 now in a men's national team sweater. And he scored penalties for Chelsea, for Dortmund, for the U.S. He just does it all the time. He's a great penalty taker. Now we have the next part. The final goal that the U.S. would score. This one came at the feet of the man of the night, hat-trick Captain America Christian Pulisic. He receives a low cross from Anthony Robinson, who came in from the left, with a beautiful first touch facing away from goal, turns around, nutmegs the center back with the outside of his right foot, and then finishes for goal number 5 and the hat-trick. An incredible game from him, who soon would be subbed off after he got a yellow, and there was some crazy stuff involving like a bunch of yelling and fighting, and he could have very easily gotten himself sent off if he went a little bit too far, but you could tell he was trying his best to compose himself despite getting pushed out and then getting the ball thrown at him. It was all kind of weirdness. But then we get toward the end of the game, and with only a couple minutes left, the U.S. concedes a free kick, which then turns into a cross into the box with a header, and Panama gets one back. Doesn't matter though, the U.S. wins 5-1, although I will say that free kick that was conceded by Aaron Long, that did not look like a free kick to me. I believe he even got a yellow card too, and I think that was kind of ridiculous, the fact that he got a yellow card on top of that. But anyways, 3 points on the table, and now the wild stuff happens. See, the United States is essentially 99.999% qualified for the World Cup. That's not an exact scientific number, but considering the parameters that would have to go their way for them not to qualify, here's what it is. In order for the U.S. to not qualify, first thing is Mexico cannot lose. If they draw or they win, then we're in a position where we could still not qualify. That's the part that's out of our control, but even beyond that, it doesn't really matter. That's just a secondary parameter. Mexico cannot lose. If they do lose, then it's almost guaranteed, beyond even more of a shadow of a doubt, that we will qualify for the World Cup. Here's the second part, though. If the U.S. wins or draws, we're in. But there's another layer there. If we lose by 1 goal, 2 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, or 5 goals, we're still qualified. We're still qualified. Even if we lose by 5 goals. Now, I've seen some people say that if we lose by 5 goals, then we don't qualify. That's actually not the case. We would have to lose 6-0 or worse in terms of that goal difference in the game in order for us not to qualify automatically. And even if we don't, we're in the Intercontinental Playoff. We have qualified for the Intercontinental Playoffs at minimum, and we've qualified for the World Cup, barring the greatest disaster in the history of the sport. In fact, the greatest disaster in the history of sports. Why is it the case that, despite some people saying that it's 5-0, it's actually 6-0? Well, the answer is because of the tiebreaker rules. Tiebreaker in soccer is based a lot of times on goal difference. So the first tiebreaker is points. Okay, points. If U.S. was to lose this next game against Costa Rica, they'd be tied on 25 points. However, currently the U.S. has a goal difference of 13, and Costa Rica has a goal difference of 3. So if the U.S. were to say lose this game by 1, the goal difference for the U.S. would be 12, the goal difference for Costa Rica would be 4, and the U.S. would still be ahead of them in the table, which means we're locked in top 3. Let's say that instead of that, the U.S. were to lose 5-0. Well, in that situation, the goal difference for both Costa Rica and the U.S. would be 8. What happens if the goal difference for both Costa Rica and the U.S. is 8? Well, we go off of goals scored. And here's the thing. In that scenario, Costa Rica would have scored 16 goals in the tournament, while the U.S. would have scored 21. That's right. The tertiary factor for where standings are after points and goal difference is goals scored. After that, you then go into goal difference in games against each other and other stuff like that. But the first factor is goal difference and then goals scored. The U.S. would have to lose by 6 goals or more in order to drop below Costa Rica in the standings. And even then, they would still have to be in a position where they would have a lower goal difference than Mexico. Now, how does that work? See, Mexico currently has a goal difference of +7. We have a goal difference of +13. So if we were to lose by, say, 6 goals, we would have a goal difference of +7. So we would be below Costa Rica, but we would be level with Mexico. However, if we're assuming that they lose, they need to have a goal difference of at least -1. So if they need to have a goal difference of at least -1, then that means that we would need to have a goal difference of losing by 7 or more if Mexico was to lose. So what we're getting at here is we would have to lose by 6 more goals than Mexico loses, and even then it's actually 7 more because we picked up 4 points against Mexico and they only picked up 1 point against us. So yeah. And we also scored more goals than them. So what we're getting at here is it is extremely unlikely that the US misses out on the World Cup. Like less than a 1% chance to the extreme. If you've messed this up, US men's national team, it would be the greatest failure in the history of the sport. The history of sports. But I know you're not gonna, because you're better players than that, and you're not gonna lose by 6 goals. Anyways, that is all that I have for today. Sometimes in future videos I may talk about more than one topic, but because I wanted to also introduce the series today, I wanted to limit myself to one topic today, which was this great game that the US played against Panama, where they won 5-1. Man of the match, obviously Christian Pulisic, but I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Luca de la Torre, who was really controlling the midfield today and played very, very well. I really hope that Luca de la Torre is able to get a really strong move. He's currently playing for a mid-table team in the Netherlands. I think this guy could play for a decent, mediocre team in a top 5 league, or maybe one of the bigger clubs in a smaller league. I could see Luca de la Torre fitting really well at a team like, say, Benfica, or even Feyenoord, something along those lines. Or he could go to a team that's maybe something like Nice, or say, I don't know, someone in the middle of Hoffenheim, something in the middle tier of the Bundesliga or Serie A or something along those lines. I think he could do really well there. I think he deserves a step up, and I think that he's earned his spot on this World Cup qualifying roster after these good performances and the World Cup roster. But anyways, that's going to be everything that I'm going to be talking about today, and I will see y'all next time.